Welcome back to the Photaudiography podcast. I'm your host Luke, and today I'll be talking all about camera sensor size. The sensor on a camera is what actually receives the data to create a digital image. This can be thought of in terms of a digital camera's film. The sizing and terminology of camera sensor sizes bases itself from 35mm film cameras. There are many different sizes of sensors, but I will give you a broad look at some of the different sensor sizes and what this means for your photography. A full-frame sensor is the same size as a 35mm film frame or 36 by 24 millimeters. These sensor sizes are used on professional level DSLR or mirrorless interchangeable lens cameras. A medium format sensor is a larger sensor than a full-frame sensor, whose sensor mimics the size of 120 film. These cameras are often larger and more expensive than full-frame cameras and are often used commercially. I don't want to spend a lot of time on medium format sensors, but I did want to let you know that they exist. Many consumer or prosumer level DSLR or mirrorless cameras use a crop sensor, which is smaller than a full-frame sensor. These sensors include Aps-h, Aps-C, 4/3, micro 4/3, 1 inch, and smaller size sensors. The most well-known crop sensor format is the Aps-C size sensor. Now, Aps-C size sensors are not all one size, but have slight variation, but the important thing to remember is that they are smaller than full-frame sensors, but larger than 4/3 and micro 4/3 sensors. If you own a consumer or prosumer level DSLR or mirrorless interchangeable lens camera, it is likely that it is an Aps-C size sensor. The 4/3 system was created by Olympus and Panasonic, which allows for compatibility of lenses and bodies across the participating 4/3 systems. The image sensor size has a crop factor of 2 when compared to the full-frame camera sensors, meaning that if you would look at an image taken by a full-frame camera and crop it or zoom in by 2 times, it would show you the result of an image you would capture from a 4/3 camera. The micro 4/3 system has the same sensor size as the 4/3 system, however it uses a more compact design, favoring the mirrorless camera design, doing away with the physical moving parts found in a traditional DSLR camera. The 4/3 system uses a 4:3 image aspect ratio, which is the reason it is called the 4/3 system. The last sensor sizes I would like to talk about are the 1-inch sensors and smaller. Higher-end point-and-shoot cameras may use a 1-inch sensor to provide the highest quality possible in a point-and-shoot form factor. Many point-and-shoot cameras, however, use sensors that are smaller than 1 inch. Your cell phone's camera is a good example of this. The sensor on it is very small, being 4 to 5 times smaller than a typical Aps-C size sensor. You're probably wondering why I'm talking about all these different sizes of sensors, and I'll tell you it's important to know that there are different types of sensors in order to better understand which ones will help you best achieve the results for your needs. For example, medium format cameras may yield stunning photos. However, if you are a bird photographer, investing in a medium format camera may not be the best idea because of the extremely high cost and the fact that medium format cameras have less advanced autofocus systems and slower burst modes when compared to their full frame and Aps-C counterparts. If you are looking to get the most zoom out of your lenses to capture your subject from farther away, you may want to consider an Aps-C or Micro Four Thirds camera because their crop factor creates a more, quote, zoomed in photo when compared to a full-frame photograph taken at the same focal length. I'm going to make the next podcast all about lenses in relation to the sensor size, so I'll go more in depth regarding this, since it can be a bit confusing and complicated. Other things that sensor size affects, other than the crop factor, are image quality, resolution, depth of field, low light performance, size of the camera, and size of the lenses. I'll start by talking about sensor size affecting the size of the cameras and their lenses. It should go without saying that a larger sensor needs a larger camera body to house it, and also a larger sensor needs a larger lens opening so that the sensor can be exposed to the scene. Next, depth of field is affected by the sensor size because the smaller sensors require more distance between the subject and the camera to create the shallower depth of field. This is due to what I was talking about before with the crop factor. A 50mm lens on a full-frame camera will look more zoomed out than a 50mm lens on a cropped sensor. Also, please listen to my podcast about aperture to learn more about depth of field. And as I said before, I'll be talking a little bit more in depth about how the sensor size affects your lenses in the next podcast. The last thing that sensor size affects that I would like to talk to you about is perhaps one of the more complicated things to explain, is how sensor size affects image quality, resolution, and low light performance. A larger sensor delivers better image quality because of something called pixel pitch. Now, pixel pitch refers to a large sensor having the same number of pixels as a smaller sensor. However, with the larger sensor, the pixels are larger, allowing more light to be captured. This allows the cameras with larger sensors to perform better in lower light situations. Larger sensors also produce finer detail because of the larger pixels. Now let me get a little more technical for you. Let's talk about megapixels and photosites. While megapixels matter to some degree, to create a clear image, the sensor size plays a huge role in this as well. The camera sensor has millions of light-capturing cavities called photosites. The camera transforms these photosites into pixels, which make up your image. 1,000,000 pixels is equivalent to 1 megapixel. Therefore, a camera's megapixel count refers to how many of the photosites your sensor contains. Here is where sensor size comes in. If you have a 20 megapixel camera, it means you have 20 million photosites on your sensor. If you have 20 million of these photosites on a small sensor, this means they are smaller than if you had 20 million photosites on a larger sensor. Therefore, these smaller photosites are less able to collect light, whereas the larger photosites are able to collect more light. This is often the reason why you may see full-frame cameras with fewer megapixels than crop sensor. While megapixels factor into the quality of an image, the sensor size is a greater measure of the image's quality. As technology evolves and changes, we are seeing more megapixels on smaller sensors with greater low-light capability. However, this is one of several reasons why cell phone cameras are still rapidly evolving and getting more advanced, but not nearly up to the par with a full-frame sensor camera. Alright, well I think that's enough bad advice I have for you for now about sensor sizes. Stay tuned for the next podcast where I will go more in depth about lenses, lens mount, and sensor size and how they all work together. I'll see you later, Shutterbugs.